Hey everyone, it's Chris Gio here of Beyond the Veil. I want to do a series of videos where I just answer some of the common questions like what is raw consciousness? What is Christ consciousness? How does it compare? What is an NPC? What is this matrix? What is in the real world? These common questions that we get almost on every single show. And I hate repeating myself for everybody, so I want to make some short videos to where new people coming to the information can really start to understand this. So in this particular video, let's tackle the question, what is raw consciousness? All right, so our raw consciousness element is, in one sentence, who we are before we came into this matrix. So if we start to think about it from that perspective, we have to ask ourselves, are we this particular experience? Is our raw consciousness this particular experience? It's not. Is our raw consciousness our past lives? No. Is our raw consciousness our ancestral memory, our DNA memory? No, it's not. Our raw consciousness exists outside of the matrix. In order to tap into that raw consciousness element, we have to first understand our own consciousness, how consciousness has been suppressed, how we have been made to focus on just one particular point of our consciousness while ignoring and giving our power away to external entities instead of activating all these other points within ourselves. In order to be able to fully understand the raw consciousness, there has to be a certain level of activations. The most common activation is feminine, masculine elements of our consciousness. Those two have to be activated and working in sync. Now, there's a bunch of sub-levels to that as well. So you'll know those sub-levels as you're going through the process, but divine feminine, divine masculine, activation points. What I've come across in my particular experience is that I was looking for external deities literally everywhere. I was talking to Isis, I was talking to Osiris, I was talking to Anubis, I was talking to all these things. I thought I was the chosen one. I thought I was, all this stuff. And I realized as the journey was progressing that all of this stuff was actually playing to my ego. The idea of spirit guides, the idea of deities, and all of this. And my ayahuasca experiences were very, very misdirected. I was trying to get to the ninth dimension again because I'd been to the ninth dimension a few times before. I was trying to get in contact with all of these different deities, which I had been in contact before. I wasn't going inwards to get answers for myself. I was completely on the wrong path because I didn't have a marker or understanding of what was happening. But then what happened is I noticed that throughout all of these experiences, I would encounter these different entities, and sometimes I would work with these entities for a long time. Sometimes I would work with them for a short period of time. But when I would encounter one, I would learn everything this entity needed to teach me. And then at that point, that entity became me. And I realized, oh, that was just my own consciousness the whole time. I'd encounter Anubis. Anubis would teach me something. Boom, then he became me. And I realized, oh, that was me the whole time. Osiris and all these different activation points. And I came to realize that the Egyptian energies are a set of frequencies that activate different parts of our consciousness. Once those are fully activated, then we're able to fully understand our raw consciousness, our A consciousness, but more especially, we're able to tap in to our raw consciousness because now we have the power. We have the power coming from inside of ourselves in order to fully understand the machine that we're in. And the machine is the matrix, and our raw consciousness, our actual consciousness, exists outside of the matrix. So again, all of these experiences that we're having, Chris Gio and radio show and programming and all this stuff, it's all swirling around within the matrix itself. That's not who we are. We exist out here. So the question at that point becomes, who am I outside of this matrix? Am I the Chris Gio experience that I'm having? Am I the past life experiences that I've been able to tap into myself and understand? No, all of this stuff going all the way up and down the line is part of the program. It's part of the matrix. In order to fully understand the matrix and my particular journey, I have to fully understand who I was before I came into the matrix. I have to fully understand the real world before I came into the matrix in order to really gauge this matrix and understand what it's all about. But we're injected with all these different programs as soon as we come into the matrix. We've got political programming, truther programming, new age programming, etc., etc. And when we put on these glasses, these programs, all of the light, I'm using a metaphor, all of the light that comes in, all of the programs that come in, all of the matrix as we're perceiving it starts to come in and is filtered through those glasses. And because it's filtered through those glasses, then we start to react in particular ways. We're reacting from fear when we react from trauma. We're reacting from fear and a level of programming. I won't go into detail in this video. When we're reacting from the truther programming. We're reacting with this false sense of spirituality when we're reacting from the new age programming. We are reacting completely and totally in fear and completely disconnected from who we really are when we're reacting from the religious programming. And the religious programming is interesting because I came from a Christian background. I broke that. Then I said, oh, the Eastern religions must have it. Broke that. Oh, well, the New Age must have it. Broke that. Oh, well, we must be Palladians. Broke that. Oh, we must be freaking big birds. I never fell for that bullshit. But, it was only because of how progressed I was in my particular journey. So it came to the point to where once everything was activated, I wanted to know exactly who I am outside this matrix. So I started putting up all of my belief systems and ideas up against the raw consciousness element. The pineal gland. Where does the pineal gland exist? Within the matrix. Where was it created? It was created within the matrix. So is the pineal gland my raw consciousness? Is that how I tap into my raw consciousness? No, it was created in the matrix by the matrix. The chakra system. Is that my raw consciousness element? Is that the way that I tap into my raw consciousness element? No, absolutely not. It was created within the matrix. See, everything created within the matrix is not part of your raw consciousness. And people will say, oh, well, what about Christ consciousness? I hear this all the time. People are always trying to superimpose this idea of Christ consciousness on top of raw consciousness. And hey, raw consciousness is whatever it is to the individual. I'm not taking that away whatsoever. But in my particular journey, Christ consciousness is a construct created within the matrix. It has nothing to do with my raw consciousness element. So we come in through a door. There's one door in the matrix. That's it. There's a single door. And that's the way we come in. And as we get deeper and deeper and deeper in the matrix, there's 100 million, trillion, quadrillion, the biggest number you can think of, different ways to get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper within the matrix. So as we start to journey, and this is from life one, I'm not talking about from this particular life, I'm talking about from life one. If you believe you've been here 1,000 years, then there's 1,000 years of deprogramming that needs to be done. So we each have made all these different unique twists and turns and all of this as we go down deeper into the matrix. So in order to get to that raw consciousness element and find that single door, we have to ultimately go on our own journey. So the path is completely and totally unique and individualized to every single consciousness out there, every single person out there. But the direction is always the same, which is to find that single door that brought us into the matrix, that also takes us out of the matrix. Once we can find that door and hop out and have a good understanding of who we are, what our raw consciousness is, and make a separation between that and the AI programming of the matrix, at that point, in my journey anyways, I can make the distinction and I can really really say with certainty, I want to embrace the Christgeo experience that I had. I want to disconnect myself from this other experience I had. Or I don't want any of these experiences whatsoever. I want to continue to be who I am. But we are subjected to a memory wipe every time we come into this matrix, or every time we're recycled in this matrix. And that's like going through first grade, learning basic arithmetic, and then having that erased from you at graduation. So then you come back into the matrix. Well, you got to learn everything you learned in first grade again, and it's a never-ending cycle. If we retained it, then I can take a look at this matrix and go, maybe it's a university, and we have these different levels, and then we graduate out of the university. It very well could be. Well, we have this memory wipe that happens every single time. How are we supposed to learn everything when it's wiped from us every single transition? So either the matrix is out of control or it's nefarious by nature, one or the other. But we can't make that judgment, or I can't make that judgment for certain until I understand who I was before. By understanding who the raw consciousness element is, I can understand why I chose or was forced to come into this matrix. So when we are looking at the Christ consciousness path, we're deep inside of the matrix. And the matrix has many levels. It's got all these multi-dimensional levels. So we're on the third dimension, according to pretty much everybody out there. Not saying that I agree with this, but just according to everybody out there. So there's different levels and different dimensions within the matrix itself. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to ascend to the fourth dimension. Cool. Take a step up in the matrix. Does that help us understand who our raw consciousness is? No. In order to get to fifth dimension or ninth dimension or 12th dimension, we must achieve Christ consciousness. Okay? Where is the fifth and 12th and ninth dimensions? Inside of the matrix. It doesn't help us get out of the matrix whatsoever. I mean, you could use it as a stepping stone if you just have to go through it. By all means, go through it. But the point is, though, that every single philosophy, every single idea, everything out there, including the Christ consciousness path, tells you that you need to stay within the matrix or go even deeper within the matrix. And that's how you ascend into higher levels. This is why raw consciousness is completely different from the Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness is an AI manifested idea. It doesn't exist in the real world. Christ consciousness exists inside of the matrix itself. The raw consciousness, again, is devoid of all of these programs. It's everything that we are minus everything that the matrix is. So it's not a matter of achieving certain things. It's a matter of deprogramming. It's a matter of unlearning over and over and over again. You have to unlearn literally everything. Now, while we're in this matrix, we need certain programs in order to survive. We need the reptilian brain, we need the ego, etc., etc. But when we understand and we can discern between our raw consciousness and what the matrix is, then it brings a whole new level of perspective to existence, or within the matrix at least, and a whole new level of understanding as to exactly why we're here. I think some people are going to come to the feeling that they're trapped in the wheel of reincarnation. Others are going to come to the feeling and understanding that they came here for a particular mission. Others may not be able to find a rhyme or reason of why they're here whatsoever. But all in all, when you realize that we exist outside of all of this, doesn't matter if it's 1,000 lives, 10,000 lives, 50,000 lives, or one life. We exist outside of all of this, and everything that we've experienced from the beginning to end, every single little detail, is AI programming. Then we tap into our raw consciousness element. It's not achieving certain states and certain this and certain that and transcending into higher dimensions and all of this. That's not raw consciousness. That's Christ consciousness. And if the Christ consciousness is your path, then that's great. Go do your path the best you can. But please, do not superimpose these Christ consciousness ideas onto raw consciousness. We're talking about two completely separate things here. And I feel that we have to keep this idea of raw consciousness pure, because there will be elements that come in and try to divert it. It's a natural thing. People want to take ideas and superimpose them on their belief systems and see, how does this idea fit with my belief system? We have to divest ourselves from all BS, divest ourselves from all belief systems, and ultimately divest ourselves from all of these experiences that we are having within the matrix itself, to tap into that raw consciousness element. So in the next video, I want to talk about the difference between organic consciousness and non-player characters or artificial intelligence consciousness. And I think through this series of videos, it'll start to build a greater and greater and greater picture. And if you want the advanced info, tune into the live show, 7 o'clock p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, right here at youtube.com/beyondtheveil. In the meantime, kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that little bell button too. Love ya, and see you next time.